And hello, and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we talk about experiences shaping exceptional lives. Wow, from building her boardroom legacy in the music industry to the Southern California shore, and now today, still celebrating her feelings of accomplishment at challenging the overwhelming adversity she faced, I'm sure, hiking on Dead Woman's Pass in the Andes Mountains at 13,900 feet just last week. Hang on, my friends. Get two fresh pens and a clean notebook open and get ready to capture all the gems that you're going to receive today, because I'm honored to have Linda Kaye joining me on the Bold Leadership Story Show. And I know you'll join me in being inspired by her stories of resilience, reinvention, and relationship building. Linda Kaye, welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to you and your audience for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here.
You can't hear you very well.
Let's find out what's going on. I just shifted the, let's see, can you hear me now? Can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. Yes.
Okay, hang on one second.
Now you froze. And I can't hear you at all. Well, looks like we lost Linda. Unfortunately, her been having a little bit of technical difficulties getting her set up here. So
Can you hear me now?
bear with us. There we go. There's Linda.
Yay!
All right. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Oh, and I'll try to stay here this time, Jim.
All right, cool. The beauties are running live, right? Here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always exciting. So, gosh, I've been just following you on LinkedIn. You've been posting of your adventures in the Andes, and for the last couple of weeks, you've been traveling in some amazing places, beautiful mountains, and high altitudes. Tell us about that journey.
Well, for those of you that are following that story, some of you may or may not know that the reason why I decided to do this hike was it was the culmination of a year of doing hard things, Jim. So on January 7th, I lost my home to the Palisades fire. It was a fire that I would like to say could have been prevented, and it should have been prevented, but it destroyed 6,300 structures in my neighborhood, my community. My entire city is gone. And the feeling of that, the sense of that, the sense of loss of that, whether you've lost your keys, your glasses, your job, your relationship, your marriage, wherever that loss shows up, somewhere in your mind, it has to compensate. It's got to figure out how do we get back? I didn't leave any breadcrumbs. How do I get back? And so I spent the year deliberately doing hard things. And the last of the hard things was doing the Inca Trail and hiking to Machu Picchu. And yeah, it is exactly what you just said. It's 175,000 steps. It's 45 kilometers or 23 miles in 3 days. most days we climbed 1,500 feet per mile, and it was quite amazing, actually. To be able to breathe at 13,900, there's a part of me that just didn't believe that that was even possible. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think
it,
I've been to 12,000 and that was hard. And you know, 13,900, that's up there.
yeah, you're about 3 miles up. And it's also a dangerous hike because the path is very narrow. So, in fact, a hiker was lost, had fallen to his death a week before my group went out.
Oh
And
boy.
so there are a lot of people that support you in this endeavor. Jim, they said it was a luxury camping. And I got to tell you that if you own a tent, there's
So
nothing
much for those
luxurious
brochures, huh?
about a tent, right?
That's hilarious.
But
Um,
it tested everything that I believed in, and
so
after
you went from sea level to in how many days were you up at that high altitude?
so Jim, great question. I went to Cusco, which is the major city of the Incans. That was like the capital for the Incans back in the 1500s, before the Spaniards decided they were heathens and needed to wear clothes and become Catholics. So they that city is at around 10,000, 11,000 feet. So I went to 10,000, 11,000 feet for a week to acclimate.
Okay, okay, that's good.
And there's no
Still,
acclimation. It's still up there.
that's
It's
still
way
up
up
there,
there.
right?
It
Well, that's
is.
exciting. The pictures that I saw of you on top of the mountain is like the beautiful.
Let
And
me
you,
just do the pose for you, Jim, because that is the superwoman pose right there.
yeah,
And
right there
getting up to that height, they say
on
that
Dead Woman's Pass.
you don't do things by yourself. You don't do tough things by yourself. And you're never going to be, I assure you, you are never alone in doing those hard things. And
Mm.
so, hey, it looks like Megan just joined us. And you got to say, get a shout out to Megan Watson. She's saying hi, you guys. And so I'm very happy that Megan, you made it and are joining us. Um, if you've got any questions, drop them in here and let's find out what kind of questions you might have. But
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Megan. So yeah, so it was you're in what was it that inspired you to want to do something that difficult, and who did you select to go with you, and why?
um, I did a year of hard things, and this was the last of the very hard things that I would do. So, um, when you have a loss, and for me, losing the house was like being erased, having 30 years of my life erased.
Mm,
And to make sense out of it and to bide time while lawsuits are pending, while insurance applications are still trying to figure out what they're going to pay, what they're not going to pay, what the lenders are doing, what they're not going to do. I had to have a place where things just made sense for me. And
mhm.
nothing made sense, Jim. So what I found myself doing was just trying to figure out, what am I going to do with what life looks like now? And I could see the pictures coming up. This is a horrendous event that happened. You have 90-mile-an-hour winds that came in and wiped out a community that had never so much as had a barbecue fire. And it wiped out over 6,000 homes, including mine. And
Mm.
there is no logic for what occurred. There is no explanation for what occurred. And what you're looking at looks like something that, like a bomb fell on the entire city.
Yeah, it
And
looks like Hiroshima after in Japan
everything
after
is
World War
leveled.
II.
And that's an interesting contrast, Jen, because in a hurricane around, and in uh, a tsunami, things kind of get washed through, but it washes swaths of things and clears paths. In a fire, everything just evaporates. It's like
Mm.
it wasn't even there. I can tell you a story. My next door neighbor was so concerned. She's also a coach, and she was like, Linda, if you're going to be at the property, could you please just go next door? I have a desk, it's metal, and it would not have burned. And I'm so concerned about a folder that has many things in it. And I assumed that it was the secret recipe to her spaghetti sauce or something that would be that important, Jim. But I went next door and I found the desk. And guess what happened? I opened up the drawer. I could see exactly the layout, the form of the book itself, and I put my fingers straight through it as if it never existed.
Ah.
That's what everything was. Everything turned to dust. There was nothing left out of it. Um,
You've written a book about
it
it, about your experiences.
it isn't just a book. It is a true testimony. It is it is a book that explains in 5 different layers our story, the survivor
Mm.
story, the victim story, not
And
just my
that's you
story.
there, right?
That is me in that hazmat suit and holding the one thing that was left out that we could find, which was a cup. And I had Airbnb'd my property. The Airbnb name was Mermaid's Cove. And so I had a
Right.
lot of artifacts around the property that were mermaid types of things. So on
Mhm.
that cup, the cup says just another Mermaid Monday. And it was the only thing that was left intact. And yes, Jim, this is in a 5-layer format. This is another international best-selling book. I've written a couple of them, but this a particular one is about the fire and what happened in the fire, what they didn't tell us, what our survivor stories are. There's a section in it for your support team, so friends, family, faith. You know, at 15 months later, most people don't understand why we haven't rebuilt because they don't even understand that we don't even have infrastructure. We don't even have electricity to our properties yet.
Mm.
It's that long.
That's just crazy.
I mean, when you think about this, an
I
entire city is gone, entire blocks are gone. Some houses are still standing, but for the most part, none of us have electricity. None of us are in the process of building. And I would say that only in the last 2 weeks since I came back from Peru have I seen some progress and starting to see some foundations being poured, including my neighbors. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for a payout. I'm waiting for insurance. I'm waiting for a whole bunch. The reason why I decided to do a year of hard things was to prove to myself that I'm not giving up. I've had a setback, but I haven't quit. And that's an important message to tell your audience that there will be setbacks, whether it's in your health. Like I just went with a brother to see the doctor for his diagnosis and treatment for cancer. And, you know, 2 months ago, he wasn't expecting that. So when you have things that show up on your doorstep, you've got to have a way of being able to handle the disaster, the setback, the very things that required me to have to rethink what I'm doing. Jim, my house was on the market. I'll be really honest. After 30 years in my house, I was ready to move on. It was in escrow for $3.5 million. After the fire, no, there's no more escrow. There's no more $3.5 million. It will cost a little over 1.5 to almost $2 million to rebuild what I had there. Did the insurance pay me out on that? No, they did not. In fact, my insurance, like many other insured, roughly 3,000 of us, were canceled months before the fire. So, what did the insurance companies know that we didn't know? What did those insurance companies know? Well, having been a broker for 20 years, I can tell you that we are required by law to disclose what is your property? Where is it at? Is it in a flood zone? Is it in a fire zone? Do any of us look at those things, Jim? No,
No.
no, we don't. We
Well,
look
when
at
I
them.
bought my house, I did, but it's like, after a while, you just assume that it's gonna be alright.
You assume that it's going to be okay, but here's the thing. When these insurers canceled, it left all of us scrambling to try to get anything. right? Because if you have a mortgage on your property, you are required by law to carry if you're going to carry insurance, you have to carry insurance enough to cover the mortgage.
Sure.
And I didn't owe that much, so I guess I was okay with the California Fair Plan. But in the California Fair Plan, Jim, there are in any policy, there are four sections to it, right? Part A is your dwelling. It's if something bad happens, how much is going to be covered? And
Mm,
nobody looks at those. I can't tell you how many people I interviewed. I don't know when the last time was that I looked at that policy. They were underinsured, or in many of the instances where they were second and third generation families that inherited the property, they
right.
didn't have the money to carry the insurance on it. So on a $5 million valuation, there's none.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And so
sad.
they're not going to have any coverage. All they're going to have is value of the land itself. And by the way, land value isn't that bad to have, but it certainly is not the $3.5 million I had been counting on.
Well, yeah, and it's a lot of money to lose in such a way. It's like, and you, I'm sure, are looking forward to rebuilding. Um,
Well, I'm
but right
not in
now,
a
it's
position to do.
tough because you've got all this healing to do.
So, you know, let's say that money doesn't fix everything, but it
Right.
sure goes a long way.
Yeah.
It
It's
to
kind of
fixing
like, I think,
everything.
what Zig Ziglar used to say. It's like money's not everything, but it's it's right there underneath oxygen.
Yes. Uh, yeah, so the 800,000 that my insurance company is offering to rebuild, it's going to take 1.5 to $2.2 million to rebuild. So I'm $1.6 million short of being able to rebuild. So I'm
Mm,
not the only one in in this situation. But you asked me, why did I create events around and post fire to keep going? Why did I
mm,
do these things? I did these things, one, to bide time, to have a positive thing to do with the energy that I have in my mind, while
right.
other things are waiting. So I made a little a wheel. Think of it as the year of doing hard things. And I just simply dissected it and said, here's my personal life, here's my professional life, here's my health, here's my family, here's my spiritual, here's the tough. And I filled it in and said, I'm going to do some tough things around this to bide the time for a year, thinking in a year's time, Jim, we're going to be able to rebuild. We're nowhere closer. We really are not anywhere closer. These lawsuits will go on for years, and there's no guarantee that there's going to be money out of this to be able to rebuild with. So, the best thing that I could do was simply understand my processing and my processing for processing grief, for processing disaster, for processing all the things that I have just expressed that I went through. And one of them has to do with belief. Jim, if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? If you're waiting for somebody to fill that in for you, you're going to be waiting a while. And I can tell you that recovery doesn't start with insurance forms or contracting bids. It starts with what you decide is true about yourself. And for me, Jim, I wasn't about quitting. I wasn't about lay down and just, let the insurance walk all over me, let the lender walk all over me, let the circumstance walk all over me. And you can see that many people have done something very similar, from Spencer Pratt, who just tried to run for mayor of the city because it was run so poorly and still continues to be run poorly. But did we get a pocket full of change out of this to go rebuild? I wish I could say yes, Jim. We got $782 from FEMA.
Wow.
That's it. That is it. So you have to be very clear about what you're going to decide that's true about yourself. For me, I'm not a quitter. I have to look at my future and the power inside the loss. What does that say to me? What can I do? Uh-oh. Okay, it looks like I got bumped again. Let's see where I'm
You're
going
still
this
here.
time. Good. All right. Well, other things are popping up on my screen, so let me get rid of those.
Okay. Everything looks good here.
Okay. All right, good. The most important thing that I can tell you, whether you're just facing a disaster or come through a disaster or you're going to go through a disaster, is you have to quickly shift your identity from being a victim to a survivor, and from that survivor to a strategist. How am I going to get out of this mess? What's going to happen for me? What do I need to make happen for myself? So I decided, okay, I don't have enough money to build this, but as a realtor, all I need are 13 listings to be able to, to go about this and have the money to go back and rebuild. All I have to do is go sell these number of things. This is it, and it's a bigger task than you think. But if you don't have a goal, where do you start? You have to decide to rebuild forward, not backward. I can't rebuild, I can't regain, I can't go back, I can't get that which I lost. But I can go forward, and I don't have any plan of rebuilding the same thing. You ask me, so you're going to rebuild. I don't know. I don't know if I can rebuild here, but I know I can rebuild. Maybe not here, maybe somewhere else. And the other key thing is that, Jim, many people that I spoke to, and you'll see their survivor stories all weaved throughout this book, you had early movers. The early movers were heads down, and they didn't want anybody else to know what they were planning and doing. And one of those people, and her mantra was, "I will be home for Christmas." This fire happened in January. To rebuild a house from ground up, scratch, in less than 11 months is nothing short of miraculous, and she was home for Christmas. So you have to refuse the story that the disaster gets the final word. That's really the key, and those are the four things that fit into that belief system, because without that, you're going to fall victim to, oh my God, I don't have this. Oh my God, I don't have that. And look at me, and look at this wound, and look at this big gap. And there are plenty of people that are going through that, Jim. As I interviewed, only in March, as I reached out to the community again, did I realize there were 80-year-olds, Jim, 80-year-olds that had their homes burnt to the ground, that were starting over. They were rebuilding. Can you imagine? I mean, if your home that you're living in today burned to the ground, I don't know how long you've been there, but what would happen? What would happen if your home burned? Would you rebuild where you are, or would you go somewhere else?
I haven't thought about it. I have no idea. Like I think I would be more like you, in that I would want to do something positive with the experience
Yes, and it's
rebuild.
not always clear about what positive is going to be. You really have to think about where your energy level is, and to get the energy, because first and foremost, you're literally running on adrenaline. In that first week, 2 weeks, you're hopefully trying to get back in to see if anything survived before all the looters get there, because they did come, because they did steal, because they did take, even after we lost everything. But I will tell you that I was able to take my $3.5 million loss and turn it into a 7-figure win in my business, and have the best business year I have had in my career. And that doesn't happen by happenstance. It happens by design. And it happens by decision, small decisions, little tiny decisions that you're going to continue to move forward. See, because you cannot make a 7-figure decision from a 2-figure nervous system. Your nervous system is in a fight or flight, and you can't make good decisions from that. You can make a decision to quickly get out of the rain, get out of the thunderstorm, but you cannot make those decisions of those long form. Now you've got to submit all of the inventory that was in your house so you can claim the Part B or Part C of your insurance policy. Any more than you could say, out of this, what am I going to make from this? What do I have left? What's in the refrigerator, Jim? What am I going to make for dinner? Right?
Right.
But you have to alter and and alter your belief and move your shift of your belief along, you have to rebuild the operator from the ground up, which means that you've got to get your body back in tune. You've got to get your sleep patterns back in tune. You've got to get a routine back. And when the house is gone, where your routine was, let's go out and see what grew in the garden today, it's not there. You're going to have to come up with a new routine. And in fact, that's what happened to quite a few people, Jim. People that said, I got to get my family to safety. I've got to move them to higher ground. I've got to get the kids back in school. I've got a career that needs to keep moving. I've got a trial coming up. I can't let my clients down. Things created the shift for people as they needed and as they had to have. But for those of us that had a little bit more flexibility in their schedules, oh yeah, you got to create you've got to create a routine, even a small win a day, whether it was you got through one phone call, or you finished filling in a form, or you finished doing this, or you remembered what was actually in that closet and where the receipts are for that. In my instance, I couldn't go back to the property right away, Jim. I had to have my daughter and her fireman husband go there first. And I said, this is where the safe was. It was on the second floor, and it's really heavy, so it would have gone straight down, as if my safe was a compass, right? It would be due north, and it would be here. Well, she sends me a picture, and it's in the book. There's a picture of just the interior of the safe with the door blown off. There's nothing left in it. And including my cold storage wallet where I had stored crypto. I'd taken it off the exchange and put it there. And I thought to myself, okay, Linda Kaye, you were very smart. You put a set of those codes, so if you have the codes, you can restore your crypto onto the wallet, right? So I said, I have a set of those in the bank. Until I drove up Sunset and started looking at the disaster on each side of the street, where there had been houses, there had been homes, there had been schools, there had been churches. They're gone. They're all gone. And as I got up into the village where the banks were, Jim, the banks were gone too. So, those big heavy doors, those great big huge steel doors, that's just a facade, Jim. On the back end of it, where everything
It's not
else
funny,
is,
but oh my God.
where everything else is, it was all sticks and drywall. Where your safe deposit boxes are, they were all gone. They were melted down. So, as I said, the first thing you have to do within yourself is you've got to calm the storm, because the storm is there. You got to get back to a normal sleeping pattern, your walks, your nutrition, your support. And then just simply stack one small win a day, so you can rebuild from the inside to go, I got that little tiny thing done, I can do it again. And that was what it was for me. It was like one tiny small win that went up on the wheel of doing tough things. Now, I have to say that as I started finishing more and more things, the tough things became a little tougher. And if you were not able, well, I decided to play on stage. I hadn't played in decades, and I'm going to be up on a stage with an orchestra on one of the biggest stages in Los Angeles, the Walt Disney Hall. I play piano, and I had been a music major as an undergrad, and I hadn't practiced in years. I mean, I practiced to play for my own enjoyment, but for tough pieces that has an orchestra part, and I'm going to be on stage, Jim, that scared the hell out of me. And so each time I made a decision to do something new,
stepping out like that,
it scared the hell out of me. Okay, that scared me to get up on the stage and do that. I had to face a lot of demons to myself, that I had left the performance stage decades earlier. I was now putting in 15 hours a week of just rehearsal time, just on my own, before I went to rehearsals. And when I did that, it was like, okay, I got that. Let's do it again in a different stage. To okay, I haven't written this book. Let's get the book finished. Let's write the book. That was hard because it meant I had to go back and look at everything. I had to go back and look at
Oh,
all of the mistakes. I had to go back and look at all of the failures. I had to go and expose the failures because there were lots of rumors, Jim. People said, oh, well, the city came and took all your debris away for free, didn't they? No, they did not, Jim. They offered up that the Army Corps of Engineers would do that, but give us your tires, your poor, and all of your insurance money, and we'll do it for you for free. There was no free part of this. And so, as I said, each task, everything that I did, from taking care of my 95-year-old mom after she broke her leg while I was in the middle of my own disaster, helping to maintain and care for. These are the tough things that really count, Jim. These are the things that people count on you for. And how do you manage this? And how do you manage this with all the other things that are going on? I will tell you that you pivot. You constantly pivot from one thing to another thing to another thing, but you don't do that without taking care of yourself. You've got to have respite. You have to restore yourself first. And that's the belief system. That's the piece of that, because in that belief, that gives you the energy to go and do the things that you need to do. I also had to be very, very careful to protect my time and my attention from people that would drain me. And there will be people that just, oh, tell me more. I want to know about what that disaster looked like, right? Yeah, you got to protect yourself from that. And you also have to protect your mind from settling into, oh, you know what? That'd be just fine. I could do that. Oh, you're right. That was hard. And then find yourself weeping while you're in between vegetables and the canned goods at the supermarket. There was something that they called scheduled grieving. I don't know if any of your audience is familiar with this, but the
scheduled grieving.
scheduled grieving. So
Okay.
when something happens, whether you've lost somebody in your life, you lost a job that was important, you lost a relationship, you lost your health, it's going to take a toll on you. You're going to miss that person that was there in the story. And you don't get to erase the story, because the story plays over in your mind over and over and over again. So I did scheduled grieving. I scheduled a time, usually in the morning, usually after an exercise, so I could get out of bed, get the exercise going at 7, and then somewhere between 7:45 and 8:15 there was a scheduled grieving session. And scheduled grieving simply meant I am going to grieve for the loss I just had, for the $3.5 million retirement I don't have anymore. Oh, let me just tell you, Jim, there were some big tears over that one. It hurt. It hurt to feel the sense of loss. It hurt to have to explain to people why you're not over this. It hurt to explain, but scheduled grieving gave me a place to grieve and a place for me to cry over the loss, for me to understand that I had just had a loss, give myself permission to be disappointed about what had happened. And in doing that, I could take that last cry, get in the shower, and keep moving. And in that keeping moving, that's when I was able to say, okay, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? How am I going to turn that revenue stream back on? Because that's the most, money isn't everything, but it sure makes everything easier, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So
So the
it
scheduled
really,
grieving is a new concept for me, and I think it's powerful. How did you learn about that, and what has been your experience with it?
um, I came about it sort of from another disaster. And this was 20 something years ago. And I lost a brother to suicide. He took his life.
Oh, sorry.
And I was inconsolable. I was devastated. He was my emotional twin. He was a year older than me, and I still miss him. I have 7 brothers, and of those 7 brothers, 3 of them are gone, and none leaves the imprint on your heart like a suicide does, because there's a part of you that just says, "What could I have done? what was so wrong that we couldn't talk through this? Why couldn't I reach you? There's this whole sense of, there must be something wrong with me, right? And I did go to survivors of suicide to have a place to grieve properly, but I called it scheduled grieving because in the mornings, after I would take my daughter to the bus stop and put her on that bus, I knew at noon she'd be back from kindergarten. And in that morning time, I would cry. I would talk to him. I would schedule the grieving. And once I was an hour out from picking her back up, because this was only 3.5 hour window, right? I got a lot of grief I got to cover, right? But in that time, I would get into the shower, have my last cry, put my makeup on, and go about the day, so that it wouldn't seep back into, me between the groceries and the canned goods and the vegetables at the supermarket, where I would start down break down crying because something reminded me of him, or a song reminded me of him, or a smell that we had in common. Those things are so, 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 so powerful, Jim. And the best thing that I can offer to somebody at this very moment is that if you are going through something, you do not have to do this alone, but you will want moments that you are with yourself and you're grieving. So nobody can touch that memory of that person, that relationship, whatever that was that you lost. And have that moment to really just love them, love and pour on that emotional energy that you gave that person that you're not going to be able to stockpile at some point in the future. Put it there and leave it there. And in that moment, it doesn't mean you're over it. It just means that you're over it for the day. And that's an important marker for you, because you're going to be able to mark progress from this. It took me a year of scheduled grieving, but over time, what I found was all of the emotions that kind of go with that, from the disappointment to the upheaval to the anger to the resentment to the forgiveness. All of those you will go through in that stage. But for me, nobody could have walked me through that. Nobody could have told me how to do this. It was just something that I came upon, Jim, and I found it to be a remarkable way for me to be able to find my way back from that edge of sorrow and grief. And I said, if it worked then, this is a different loss. I wonder if it can work now. And it did. I was shocked. I was shocked at how much it was actually I was able to apply it. Dan, I think you're following me, Dan, Mr. Altmeyer. I'm certain of it. Just saw you the other day. So I'm just.
Hey, Dan.
I just think that scheduled grieving is a necessary part of recovery after a disaster or after a loss. And I'd be happy to
It
talk
is.
to any of you.
It's so important, and I'm guilty of not doing that. I think doing that scheduled grieving idea is really powerful.
You
Thank
know
you for
what's
sharing
interesting,
that.
Jim? There was one of the contributors to the book. He was on the board. I knew who he was. And when I put out a call through a survey on Nextdoor, he responded. And I interviewed him, and I was certainly not surprised at how grief-stricken he was. But we women forget how fragile every human life is, every human being, and that men feel their grief on a different level. Because you have to put on this brave front. You got to be the strong guy for us, right? Right, a hero. And yet you have the same emotions that we have. You've got to have a place to put that grief. And when I started asking him questions, he literally broke down. And he was like, just give me a minute. It was like, take as long as you want. Take as much time as you need. And he said that he hadn't been able to process the grief of loss, because you pick up and you keep moving. You've got forms to fill out. You've got a business to run. You've got a wife to take care of. You've got to get the house. You have to get the food and shelter together. The preparation. Maybe she's going to take care of that. If you're by yourself, like I am, then you're doing it all. But for him, and just watching his response, I was just I I was deeply moved by how strong men are required to be in our society and how little we allow the adaptation of those emotions to be able to show. Because you got to be the guy. You got to be the strong guy. You got to be, you're the hero. You're the breadwinner. Well, guess what? Heroes hurt too.
Yeah, they
And
do.
that was a great eye opener for me. Now, one thing that I thought was really interesting, I asked everybody, is there one thing you wish you could have gotten? Now, Jim, if everything in your house was burning down and your wife says, "Come home, Jim, you got to get out. We got to get out of here," and you tell her, "Load up whatever you think is important." Well, everything's important, right?
Right.
Until it isn't. And I asked him this question, and I'm going to ask you, Jim. If everything in your house was burning down to the ground, and you had 5 minutes to grab something, what would you grab?
The cats.
Well, let's assume that the animals and the children are in the car, and I'll tell you a horror story about that in just a second.
Okay. Well, then it would be, I don't know. Nothing is more important than those things. I've got some memorabilia from my family, some old antique guns and things, and some paperwork, some historical documents from my family that would be missed a lot. Legacy things. So but even that stuff is not that critical, but I don't know. It'd be really hard and have to make that decision in 2 seconds.
Well, fortunately, he did not have to make that decision. His wife did. And so he was checking on mom. He was trying to make sure mom was okay. Mom's 92, and he wanted to make sure she got out with her care provider. And then he made his way down onto the beach to be able to get up into my community where he lives. And uh, he had a hard time getting up into the community now because as the fire's burning, the streets started closing, and LAPD or the sheriff's department or highway patrol in my neighborhood stopped traffic from coming in either direction. So he gets down onto the beach, he gets up onto the street, he starts up the hill. His wife is coming down the hill. She says, "There's no time, the house is on fire." She comes down with his awards. He's a producer. He says he wouldn't have picked them, but she did. She picked those for him, his favorite sweater, and the silver. She got the silver. Of course, the dog and the cat. I said, "Now, Mark, what would you have gotten?" And he said, "Well, I would have gotten the Mustang Cobra, the 1967 Mustang Cobra that Keanu Reeves helped me get." And I've talked to several guys that had cars in the garage that they would have gotten, and the post fire doesn't even pay homage to what those great cars looked like or what they were, but they were just simply gone. For me, I wanted to get a picture that my mom made. Mom's now 95 and she's blind. She's been blind for 8 years. And I coveted a picture that she had in her living room for years until she acquiesced and let me have it. I do have pictures of it, so I can take that picture and have it put onto a canvas, but it won't be the same thing because mom won't be able to make that again. So it's the one thing that I wish I could have gotten, but I didn't. So, I could tell you, Jim, that the year has been an amazing year of firsts and surprising myself, like going that 13,900 feet. I didn't think I could do that, but it came with mindset. I believed that I would do it. Never once did it occur to me that I might die. Never once did it occur to me that I wouldn't make it all the way through. I had two goals. and I achieved one of them. I made it all the way through. My second goal was to come through uninjured. And on the second night of the hike, I made it all the way to the top of the summit to Dead Woman's Pass. And as I'm coming over, I'm now going to start the descent. And Jim, the descent is your most difficult. It didn't occur to me that it would
They
be
don't
more
tell you
difficult.
that in the book.
I wouldn't have believed it anyway. It was all downhill from here, right? How tough could that be going down? But it was, whether it was a 4-inch step or a 14-inch step, it was steps all the way down to camp, and all I could think about was get to camp. So when I twisted my ankle, I could hear the guide, and they speak 3 different languages. They speak Quechuan, which is their native language, the Incan language, and then Spanish and English. So when I heard him speaking into his walkie-talkie, he's talking to you camp now, and he's saying dos abuelitas. Now I recognize dos abuelitas. I am one of them. So the 2 grandmothers is what he was referring to. So the 2 oldest people in the hike. And so the ages ranged from 20 to 75. So that's quite a range, but the average age of the hike was roughly 45, 50 years old. And so I went with Suzanne Evans' group. Suzanne put a group of people together. The trainer was the Marion Jones, the 5-time Olympian. So she was our coach and trainer for these several months. And then other people from, a badass combat helicopter pilot that, just made it her job that she's going to finish this, to, I look at Masongo, who encouraged me and said, Linda, you can do it. There wasn't one time, not one person, Jim, not one person in that entire trip had anything negative to say. Nobody complained about their aches and pains. Nobody complained that the porter nearly knocked us off our shelves, or that we didn't get the hot water nobody complained. And the leadership, what I learned about leadership is it's quiet. Leadership leads by example, doesn't it? And so the key guide, so on day 2, we lost 2 hikers, 2 porters, and 1 guide. So 5 people straight out. By midday on day 2, we lost another hiker, another guide, and another 2 porters. Another 5 people or 4 people out. 9 people out of our group now. So we went from.
Why did they leave? What
They
caused
couldn't
them to
breathe.
be out?
They couldn't breathe.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to breathe. And, you at the elevations that we were at, Jim, you have 30% less oxygen already.
Right.
Now go exert yourself, and you've got another 15% that you just lost. So we were operating at about 60 to 65% of our lung capacity. Because as you go up higher, it's unlike when you're diving, the more the depth that you get to, the more your lungs compress, right? Well, it's just the opposite. So the higher you go in elevation, the more it compresses. And so it was very difficult to breathe. And I was always grateful when I would hear Porter, because that meant, oh, good, I can pull over to the side and rest for a minute, catch my breath, right? I took oxygen as a precaution in a can. Well, I talked to the guide just before I got to the top of Dead Woman's Pass, and I said, I have some oxygen. Do you think I should use it right now? And he goes, no, I think maybe you wait 5 minutes and you catch your breath. I looked at him like, well, if I catch my breath, I don't really need more oxygen, right?
That's funny.
It was crazy. Everything is just counterintuitive to the way you think, like going downhill. So by the time the porters had started coming up to help the abuelitas get back to camp, we were still a mile from camp, and I had my second injury, and that injury is still with me today, and that's when I tore my meniscus. And so I tore the meniscus on my right knee. I did not come back to camp complaining. I went to bed. I figured that if I complain, other people are going to be alarmed. Other people are going to be discouraged. And I literally just took my wounds and went to bed. And the next morning, it was like, does anybody have anything we can wrap this with? right? I'm not coming to breakfast with, oh my God, can anybody carry me the rest of the way? I mean, I had visions of being held up on a stretcher, going down like a sacrificial lamb to an altar someplace for the Incans, and I'm like, that is not going to happen to me. And so I just kept going, and it was hard. It was really hard, and when I felt pain to the point of tears, I sat down and I said, do you have a tighter bandage? Because if I could get a tighter bandage on that thing, I wouldn't feel the pain as much as I did. And I got through the third day and the third night. And everybody was back at camp around 6:37. Sundown went at 5:15. I didn't get into camp until almost 8 o'clock, but I came in on my own, limping. So I can honestly say, Jim, that I limped the Inca Trail.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment. That's good. And thank you for giving us the benefit of that story. What resilience and just fortitude of pushing through, even through all that pain. And
You know,
and you felt that pressure too with the people that you were with. They're all very, sounds like high performance driving type people too,
You know,
right?
there were other people that were injured that never showed their injury. Suzanne went in for a heart procedure yesterday. She never talked about it. She never did this. I claimed that Chichen Itza pyramid when it was legal. Going down was really scary. Yes, Dan, I couldn't agree more. Going the distance. But here's the thing. You know, it's like your business. If you're the business, if you collapse, everything else collapses around you. So, you know, before you touch any of the things that you're going to have to deal with in these disasters, you got to get your nervous system in alignment. That nervous system has to get out of fight or flight, because in the fight or flight you'll burn out. And I was excited to get up to the highest point. It didn't occur to me that I wasn't prepared to do the descent. And that was my mistake. And now I'm having to compensate for it. And not only am I having to compensate, but other people are having to help me in that compensation. That didn't stop the rest of the crew, by the way. Nobody sat here and go, well, we're just going to wait for Linda Kaye to get here. No, because there were three groups, and there will always be three groups, no matter what it is. You're always going to have your early movers, the early movers that go, I'm going to be home for Christmas. I don't care what it takes, right? They're just going to bear down. Money is no object. They're going to just go. Then there's going to be that middle group that says, they're moving too fast, and this group back here is moving too slow, so I'm going to create my own hike. And I was in that hike in that middle until I injured. And then I dropped back with the last. And I'm happy to report that I was the absolute last one in on the trail to come through the Sun Gate. But I wasn't the last one to hit Machu Picchu. And the sense of accomplishment is tremendous. It is doing something that most people won't ever think about doing. But if you believe you can, you will. And you'll be right if you don't think you can either. You'll be right. I wanted to finish something. I wanted to show myself that I could still do hard things. Let me tell you right now, I don't have that sense of needing to do that. There's a higher sense of self-preservation going on now.
Yeah, well, yeah, I imagine. So what would you take into the boardroom now with that experience? What could you take into the boardroom and offer that as inspiration for others?
I would say that it fits the format, my format, which is bet on yourself. Bet on yourself with the beliefs in your belief system. Your belief system will carry you farther than anybody else can. And when you don't have that belief, you can borrow it from others, as I did on the trail. Every single one of those guides said, you can do this. You can do this. There was a part in my mind that said, just lay down, let the wolves eat you right now. and I had to borrow their belief. I believed that I would get that far, and that got me farther than I could turn back. I didn't know how I was going to get off the mountain. That was hard. I had to trust my guides. So the belief was, I can, And then the other belief was, I have to trust you and I must, because that's not an easy thing for most people to do. The second thing I would say would be rebuild for the next decade. Rebuild for what's next, not for what was, but for what is next. Don't rebuild what was. Rebuild it as if it's going to be the best thing that you ever created, because the disaster gave you a forced reset that most owners don't get, and they'll never get. So I'm using it to redesign. So I redesigned my business model. I redesigned the home model. The location, the team, everybody, the life that I actually want for the next 10 years. Because for me, resilience isn't going back. When I think about resilience, Jim, I think about a tennis ball bouncing. It only has so many bounces, right, before it's done. I am not thinking of being that damn tennis ball. I'm thinking about bouncing beyond. I had plans to go beyond that. And so resilience isn't going back, it's going forward and it's going smarter. And then I would say also pivot your revenue. The instinct after a disaster is to simply shut down, wait it out. And that's how most businesses die. And if you're a small business owner, hear me out on this, because that's how most businesses die. You just find another one revenue stream that you can run from anywhere. Consulting, licensing, royalties, digital, referral fees, anything. Start it within the first 30 days of that disaster, because energy follows momentum, not the other way around. And then your tactics. And I would say that the tactics is everything else. You'll have the energy for the tactics, from the insurance forms to taking the right offer. The first offer is never the real offer. Document everything, push back on every single line item, and treat your adjuster just like a counterparty, not an ally. They are there to do their job, and you are as well. Just don't wear them down and wear yourself out in the process. The one thing I can tell you is that the ones that recovered the fastest were the ones that treated their claim like it was a deal that they were closing, not that they were filing. And that was really important. And again, that went right back to their mindset. It goes absolutely back to bet on yourself. It's your belief system. Your belief system will give you the energy, and you'll figure out the tactics. And then the one thing that I would tell you that many people did is they just simply silenced themselves. Silence kills relationships, it kills your credit, it kills everything. You got to call your bank, you call your SBA, call your vendors, before they call you and say, I haven't heard from you in a while. Are you okay? No, be proactive. Walk in with a plan, even if it's a rough one. And, so you can get a forbearance, or you can get a restructured of your loan, or you can get bridge capital. If you wait, you'll get default notices. And that is not a fun thing to have. So I would say that those are the things I would walk into the boardroom with: is don't stop. Stopping is death. You must keep moving. And you're going to make decisions. You're going to make wrong decisions. You're going to make decisions when you're scared. And let me just tell you, those are the best ones. Think about it for a second. You're out in a thunderstorm. Your first inclination is to get out of the rain and then get out of the thunder, or whatever's into the thunder. But what if there's only a tree and a rock? What are you going to get under? You're going to make the decision when you're scared, and then you're going to keep moving. Because when you stop moving, that's when the doubt sets in. That's when oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. And then the scare moves you into non-action, silence. Don't do it. Don't be tempted to. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Even if you don't know where you're going, keep moving. That is my motto. Don't know where I'm going, but I'm on my way.
Awesome. Wow. That was rockets, just like boom. Incredible.
Jim,
Thank you.
I would thank your audience for being here, and I thank the audience for all the things that they have said. It's very encouraging to see people where they are and what they've been doing, and hopefully that something in what I've said to them inspires them in a way to keep going. If you haven't bought the book, there is a second book that's coming with this. I was so vain, I didn't want to have any of the forms and the things that tell you how to do stuff. So there's a companion book, Rising from the Wreckage, that will be coming out in a few weeks. But I would say that if I've said anything to any of your audience members here today, that strikes a harmonious path with them, and they know other people need to be reached to have this story told, please book me. I think you have a link to book time with me to, let's see if that's up here somewhere. I think we've got, I think it's Linda, yeah, there, testdrivefreedom.com. And I think it's book me or book time.
Let me see if I can.
See if you can find that one there. That would be book time with Linda. And let me talk to the audience or make a recommendation to your city council or to your Chamber of Commerce, anybody that can hear this message, that needs to hear this message, that would benefit from this message. Please let me know, because I'm ready to talk, and clearly I got something to say.
Clearly you do. Let's see, schedule. Would it be under schedule? Speak with Linda?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, hang on. Let me grab the. Oh, okay, hang on.
And I think that I think one of my VAs gave you an exit on a social media post that nobody's seen yet, so that would be a fun thing to go out on. It's a 15-second clip if you have it. There you go,
So
Linda.
is that it there?
That's it.
Okay, cool. And I'm looking for the video, and I'm not seeing it.
Well, I guess they're just going to have to go to my post then. So Facebook or LinkedIn.
Wait, maybe there's maybe share media. No, I'm not seeing. Sorry.
That's okay. Let me not dominate your show any more than I already have. I've already taken it away from you.
Oh, you've been. It's been amazing, but very fun.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a good day.